something was wrong the moment I walked into the house. As my feet touched each step on the staircase, I could feel the tightening in the hollow of my chest. Something was about to go down. As I entered the room, Connie turned to realize that rarely does one hear the story of how it affects a man or what he goes through when confronted with the reality that his wife is in love with another woman. There.
Good evening, Source Nation, and welcome to SRN Live Television. I am your host, author Kimberly McLemore, and thank you for tuning in tonight to my show, The Author's Corner. Tonight we have another amazing show in store for you, but before I go any further, of course I need to talk about our sponsors, who are Zulina Health and Wellness and Fitness, Meet My Types Matchmaking, Renovations, and New Covenant of Praise Worship Center. And then, of course, I'm going to take a couple of minutes and tell you a little bit about myself. I am the author of How to Be a Success by Just Being You and the memoir, Deception of the Heart, A Real Look into Domestic Violence. I'm also the founder and CEO of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, the host of the podcast, Your Resource for Success show, which is on iHeartRadio and Spotify, the founder of the Author Kimberly M. McLemore, LLC, and the host of this wonderful new radio TV show called The Author's Corner. And then let me just talk a little bit about why this platform exists. I wanted to provide an opportunity for new authors like myself and other authors so that they can have the opportunity to talk about their books, any new events that they have, speaking engagements, and of course, we want to know where we can get a copy of the book. So now let me just tell you a little bit about my guest tonight. I am so excited. His name is guest author Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper is the father, a musician, an artist, and hairstylist, and a survivor. His journey in life led him to meeting his wife and the stories of other men whose wives came out of the closet as lesbians and left them for a woman. Without further ado, Source Nation, please help me welcome my special guest, Gary Cooper. Hi, Gary. How are you this evening?
I'm doing really, really good. I like that intro.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I like the intro.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you know, I'm more excited about this because we know each other.
Right. Yes.
You know, we met back in March at a book festival called Ujama Book Festival. And right. The first thing I remember you saying to me was, I love that yellow shirt. So that just made my day.
I know it all day long. I kept seeing that yellow shirt and it was so beautiful. It was really eye-catching. And I kept seeing that shirt, So you're right, But the funny thing is you're the person, how you go somewhere and you remember somebody. Mm-hmm. I always remembered you. You're that one person that I remembered when I left, So yes. Yes.
And yeah, so we got an opportunity to meet there, and then I actually even bought your book. And so I was excited that I didn't know I was going to have this show so soon. So to have you on my show, I am just thrilled to death because you absolutely have a story to tell. Source Nation, oh my goodness. Tonight's show is going to be incredible. So I'm going to let you kind of just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself first before we start diving into the actual book.
Okay. Well, believe it or not, I'm a hairstylist now. My background was as a musician. I was in the music business. I was on Capitol Records in 1979, 80. Up in that area, we had a top 10 album, group by the name of Silver Platinum, song called Dance, One More Chance, Party Is Over. And, I got a chance to tour. I got a chance to see the world because my whole background has been in music. In about 1988, 89, I got so tired of the music business because it was so much traveling and it was just a whole nother world. And I just wanted to be able to come home in the evening, just come home to my family. My kids were becoming strangers. I didn't want that to happen any longer. So I left the music business and I came home. I came here. I moved from New York to Atlanta and then to Florida. And believe it or not, I went to sleep one night not knowing what the heck I was going to do because I've done music all my life. I'm a keyboard player, guitar player, drummer. I was a music major in college, Mm-hmm. And I kind of prayed one night and woke up the next morning, sat straight up in the bed and said, do hair? Because it's almost like somebody spoke in my sleep and told me, okay, that's the next thing you need to do. So I got up, I grabbed the yellow page. They don't have yellow pages anymore.
Right.
And I know, right? And I found this school, Hollywood College of Beauty. And I went there. There's this girl named Terry. I remember her name being Terry. I spoke with her and I went there. She signed me up and I started doing hair. We opened a salon up. But I had just met who would become my wife that is in the book. And what happened is that we opened a salon that was like the salon that everybody in Fort Lauderdale went to. You know, we became very public. We would do hair shows, fashion shows. We did so much. You know, my background in staging and whatnot. She was a model, so she had a background in modeling. And so we were able to do these elaborate hair and fashion shows, you know. And those things and all of that brought us to the book, because what happened in that marriage was a lot to write about. Let's put it that way, you know?
Okay.
So,
right. Yeah. So, I mean, that is a complete turnaround. Like you said, to be a musician all these years. And then one day, I mean, I can see that being a rough type of a living, even though you enjoyed it, but then to turn around and become hairstylist. And I have seen some of your pics, you know, with the hairstyle. You do a good job, and have to have you one of these days.
No, no, you wear your hair for you, you know, it always looks good, you know.
Well, thank you very much. But yeah, I noticed that is your, you know, profession. So I find that very interesting how you gone from one extreme to the next. But of course, within this process, you met the woman that you thought was your dreams, correct?
Correct, yes.
And then one day, things were not what they seemed. So let's talk a little bit about your relationship, and then talk a little bit about how your story became a part of this book. And then, of course, we'll dive into the other people who are a part of this book as well. So tell me a little bit about this special woman that you thought was the woman of your dreams.
You know, what happened, and to which I realized later that we were better business partners than we were husband and wife, because I didn't realize her struggle. And that is a reality. You know, she was a person that's always seemed like she was at a struggle with life and things, you know, but, you know, that's all in hindsight. I understand what I didn't understand now, you know. We were together for 19 years, married 13 of the 19, and she was an ex-model, a real girly girl, not anybody, you know, your vision of a person that's lesbian is this butch person and stuff. It was nothing like that. She was a real, I call it a girly girl. And, you know, you see things that you don't understand, but you're married, you know, you're just into what you're doing. So you don't realize all the signs, and all the signs are there. You just don't recognize them because you're so busy being married, going through life, doing hair, you know, raising a family, that you don't see all this stuff. You don't pay any attention. And in about 2003, we had this customer who was a longtime friend of ours as well. She was married to a man, and she ended up coming to the salon one night and told us that she had come out of the closet. She was having a relationship with another woman. Well, okay, that was fine. We were friends before that. She was a good fit for our person. So what ended up happening is that she introduced us to her new partner, which was another female. And we all became friends. You know, sometimes we would go out to dinner, and I never took a second thought about it. And then within that year, we ended up realizing that my wife was having an affair behind me and her back with her partner.
Oh, okay. So
that's a twist right there, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And that is the woman that she was having a relationship with, and I didn't really know it. But the bigger part of that is you have to understand my ex-wife, she's from Jamaica. And in Jamaica, you can be killed being gay. I mean, you can get killed, raped. I mean, a lot of bad things can happen, not to mention the shame you'll bring on your family. Right. So when she was in Jamaica, she ended up leaving Jamaica, coming over here where it's a little more liberal. And that's where she ended up having these feelings. She started to understand what she was feeling but she was still doing what her family and everybody think you should do. Get married as a woman, have a child, you know, do that thing. And she did those things. But inside, I guess the inside things that was going on inside it was really fighting against what she was actually living, you know? So her reality came out one night when I came from the shop. As you'll notice in the book, I came home from the shop one evening, and that's when she was just, I'm ready to come out. And she was just ready to come out. And that's when the story of her coming out actually started. Even though I found out later that it started way before that day, you know?
Right, right. It was just her opportunity to come clean.
Yes, yes.
So I know you've probably been asked this question a million times. How did you not know? You know, that's usually the number one question that people say.
Yes.
And I know, as I guess you could say, as a victim or survivor, what you've been through, it's one of those situations, I think, that we never want to know really what the truth is, even though a lot of times we see signs of things that we just don't, like you said, understand. So,
yes, right. Yeah, yes.
And I can get her saying that, hey, I got to live this normal life, because even though she's in America, it's really not that much different. Now, granted, we're not going to go out here and, you know, we're not going to kill and rape you because of what you are. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but at the end of the day, it's still not always something that's acceptable. You know,
right.
Don't really hear as many stories about it being vice versa. It's usually the other way around. So what was your reaction to, I could imagine the look on your face, but what could you say at that moment?
Well, first you have to understand how I found out. I was coming up the stairs, and she was just this ready. As I was walking up the stairs, I came from the salon, walked up the stairs, and walked into the room, and she was on the phone. And I sit on the side of the bed because I originally thought that she was on the phone paying bills. And all of a sudden, this attitude, yes, which shocked me. I was going, I said, is this some kind of private conversation or something? She said, yes, I can help friends if I want to. It came out like that, you know?
Right.
What happened on the other line? So when I'm like, well, who is that on the phone? I was just in shock. I'm thinking it's a man.
Right, of course.
Well, when I picked up the other phone, turns out it's not a man. And not only is it not a man, it's a friend of ours, you know, which is her best friend's partner. And that's how I found out. So you can imagine I was shocked. But the strange thing is I was very calm about it. I didn't raise my voice. I was very calm about it. And the reason is because I had my two sons in the other room. And so I'm not a person that gets out of control anyway. You know, I always remain calm. And I can just remember saying, look, just get your stuff and just go. Because I had figured it out by now. Right. I was shocked, but I had figured it all out in that second, you know? Man, I'm telling you. And I'll tell you what happened. There's a thing called coming out because it's something that's been inside you for a while. But then there's also coming out without being inconvenienced. And that was her. She was ready to come out, but she didn't want to become inconvenienced by it in any way, shape, or form.
Interesting.
So, yes. And so by that, I mean, what happened is that she wanted to be able to keep the house, our annuities, the bank account, the business. She wanted, yes, she wouldn't leave.
Live that double life.
She wanted to live the double life, yes. And so that was it because, I mean, we were living, a really good life. We really were, you know. She didn't want to, she was trying to figure out how can I do that without disrupting my life, and that was the thing. But what happened is that it became so public in our area because we're kind of known, And then what happened, everybody was talking about it. But what happened, it made other men feel comfortable about talking about their experience of the same. Because, men don't talk about these things with each other. Right. They don't talk about breakups. They don't talk about pain, hurt. You know what I mean? You ask the average man, about a breakup, they're like, no, I'm okay, man. I'm okay. Women cry on each other's shoulders, sit around with the women, they talk about it. You dirty dog, he did it. I mean, you guys really, really deal with your emotions. Men don't. So up until that point, I thought I was the only one. I had no idea there were other men around me that had gone through the same thing, So one day I'm at my new salon. I'm there and a friend came by, and it's a friend, tall, salt and pepper hair, always dressed nice, kind of guy that would walk into your salon and the women would go, who is that? That kind of guy. But I had no idea that he at one time was a dedicated husband. He said, look, man, let me holler in your ear for a minute. And I said, okay. We went outside, sat in my windowsill. We had these like indented windowsills in the salon. We sat there and he said, look, man, I don't want you to think that you're the only one. He started telling me this story of how he was in Chicago and how he used to be married and how he ended up walking in on his wife and the girl that he thought was her friend girl, who turned out to be her girlfriend.
Right.
And he walked in on them in bed together, and that's how he found out his wife was in the closet as well. And what happened, he said, how do you think I ended up from Chicago to Florida? He said, I got tired of all of my buddies picking at me, man, you let a woman take your wife from you. And men take it deeply, like, you know, it's a deep thing for men because they think it has something to do with their masculinity, when the reality is it's about their wives. It's not about them. It's about their wife dealing with themselves, you know? Yeah, so he told me, I was like stunned because up to that point, I thought I was the only one because I don't hear about this stuff, you know?
Right, I can imagine. But, you know, I want you to hold the note, because before we go any further, I just want everybody if you're tuning in late on this, you haven't tuned in too late, I want you to know that we are live. You're here on the Author's Corner. Of course, my name is Author Kimberly McLemore, and I have a phenomenal guest tonight, Gary Cooper, and he's talking about his story. But I want to ask you a quick question, Gary, before you go any further. Now, I guess my curiosity is, how did the other woman act? I mean, to know that, you know, this is supposed to be the best friend of your previous wife, and now the best friend's girlfriend is messing around, you know, with your ex-wife. So, I mean, how could she not be involved in that process as well?
Well, when she found out, she was stunned, because you have to understand, my ex-wife and her were like this.
Right.
I mean, they would have breakfast sometime together because we were friends before. We've been friends for years.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently she would be with her. They would meet for lunch, and then she would come to the salon. But sometimes not come to the salon, double back to her house and be with her partner.
Wow.
And now you have to understand, my lesbian friends, you know, I have a lot of friends that are lesbian because I'm a salon owner. So I come from the music business, where you just can't be in the entertainment business and the hair business and not be aware of, well, what happened. Yeah, I would get all these calls because they were like, look, we don't want you to think that's how we are. They thought that I was going to become like this homophobic person, blaming all gays and lesbians for what one person did, you know? So most of my friends that were lesbian, they were concerned that I wasn't going to become this person that just hate everybody lesbian, you know?
Right.
No, I know the difference. I know the difference, you know?
Right, because society always has that, well, this is not the norm, so this is how people expect you to react, not realizing that it's got to be a lot more emotion involved in that versus just worrying about the next person being gay, you know, or lesbian.
Yes.
Case may be. So, you know, talk to me just a little bit about how it affected your family. I mean, you said you had children. You know, any type of breakup is hard on your family members. It's hard on you. It's absolutely hard on the kids, but that has to be a whole different dynamic. What did you guys go through, and how did you work it out?
Well, you have to understand, my other kids are from a previous. We only had one son, and then another son that she had when I met her.
Okay.
He was about 4 or 5 years old. That I raised him all the way up to being a man as well, you know? And here's the funny part. It affected her son, which calls me dad, because, you know, I raised him, you know? We had another son who at the time was about 7, 8 years old. And I realized the reason that we had that son is because she talked me into having another son, because I guess she was trying to deal with her sexuality at the time. This is just my assumption.
Right.
That she thought in her mind, okay, if I have a son, maybe these feelings that I'm having won't be there. And she talked me into, because I thought I was done with having kids. And so she really talked me into having another kid. And I had never really thought about it. I think she thought that would be the thing that helped her to deal with these feelings inside. But it made her not be that motherly. And I think it had a lot to do with her personality as well. So she wasn't that close to the son that we had, nor her son, because, you know, she was one of those kind of people that was kind of cold at first, I thought. But I realized she was dealing with a lot of stuff internally. And that's the reason that it kept her from being this person that should have been a little more motherly to her kids, but really couldn't. So I ended up being that person that got up every morning, got him dressed for school, fed him every morning, bathed him every night. If he cried as an arm baby,
wow,
I'm the one that got up and dealt with him. So we bonded, and she never bonded to him. So in the beginning, it didn't affect him that much. But when he turned 21, all that, so we had to get him therapy. Everything started coming out.
Wow.
When he was 21 years old. We had to go back to see therapy for that, you know? So it affected him later, you know?
Right. Because I think we assume that just because kids do the normal thing that they feel that they're doing, that
Right.
they're resilient and that they're okay. But at the end
Yes.
of the day, that's not necessarily true because it affects everybody. And we always think that when we go through things in life as parents or as adults, that we're protecting our kids, not realizing that these are conversations that you have to have. And
Yes, yes, yes.
unfortunately, we always think that, well, it's too soon. We don't want to do this. We don't want to ruin that. But here it is. Like you said, by the time he hit 21, he was all messed up because he had to get
Yes.
his feelings out. He had to be able to talk about what was really going on with him because you can't go any further until you really understand who you are. And it's a blessing that he did talk to you, even though it took all those years, but it was a blessing that happened. So let's dive in a little bit about the book because time is going by so fast. I'm just like, I don't want to let it go. I'm like, no,
yes,
down to 10 minutes. So
yeah, yes, I know.
Talk to me about the book. You said, now how many other men have actually participated in this book?
Well, what happened is that, I just started writing stuff down. And then little by little, another guy came to me because once again, it made it more comfortable for them to talk. As another guy came to me out of the clear blue sky. Mm-hmm. And he said, look, man, I don't want you to feel bad about this. He told me his story about him and his daughter. I used to always think that, man, you're a really good father to your daughter because I used to like their relationship. They had this really close relationship. And I thought the mother was dead because they never talked about the mom. So I assumed, the presence of the mother just seemed so final. They said like they never talked about it. So I just assumed she was dead,
Wow.
And so he came to me, he started talking to me, and I don't want you to feel bad about it, whatnot. He said the same thing happened to me. And I go, what? He told me about him and his daughter coming home one day from school and everything was gone. His wife had left him and moved to Taiwan with her Taiwan with her partner.
Okay.
And he said he left Alabama. He said, how do you think I got down here from Alabama? Because we moved to get away from that scene.
Right.
So that's how he ended up coming from Alabama to Florida. Another guy in there, his girlfriend went away to college and started dealing with this. So these men, they just started coming and telling me these stories. And that's when I realized some of these men, as a matter of fact, they all said the same thing. This is the first time I've spoke about this before. I've never talked about this since then,
Right, because it's something, like you said, people feel of shame. It's not something that you communicate. It's like, you're not going to go around to my, oh man, did you know what happened? It's just not one of those topics of conversation we have. And like I said, especially when it's the shoes on the other foot, so to speak, it can be more acceptable when it's a male, in that direction versus a woman. So tell me about the name Shadow Dancing. How did you come up with it? And can you show my listeners the book?
The name of the book.
Come up with that name.
The reason I show Shadow Dancing, because after I realized all the things about these men, I realized the one thing we all had in common is that we, with a shadow, you can't tell what a shadows look like. All you do is you see the outline of a person. Mm. You never know if the person is good looking, bad, big, fat, tall. You don't know. You just see a shadow. And I realized we didn't know the interworkings of our wives. All we saw was like a silhouette of our wives. We realized the most important thing about them, we didn't even know or understand. And so that's where the term shadow dancing came from, because they're always dancing around the subject of their sexuality, So that's why I call it shadow dancing, It came to me out of the clear blue sky in prayer,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting name. And it's one of those names that you remember. You're never going to forget it. So talk to me, though, about how we can find the book, where you at on social media, because I know you're out there. But
Yes. You can find the book. Well, number one, if you want an autographed copy, you can go to Shadow Dancing by Gary Cooper, my website, and you can order from there. It'll come to you very quickly and autographed with a little bio inserted as well. You can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iBooks, Google Play. Any place that a book is sold, you can get it from there. I'm on social media. My email address, if you want to respond, give me any criticism or feedback, Gary Cooper Hair at Yahoo, Facebook at Shadow Dancing by Gary Cooper, Instagram, Gary Cooper 2016, and Twitter, Gary Cooper Hair on Twitter.
All right, awesome. So before we actually end though, I really kind of want you to talk just a couple more seconds about the book. Is there any specific part of the book that really stands out to you and you want to talk a little bit more about to the listeners?
The one part that stands out because, you know, the book takes me from that moment, and then I had to rebuild my life because you got to remember, she took all the money out of the bank. She stole the money out of the annuity. So my son and I, we started out broke. She didn't want to be a mother anymore. I guess her new lifestyle was so overwhelming to her that she ceased to even try to participate in raising. So I was a single father. We were broke. I couldn't go to the salon. I couldn't get my customer list. And so the rest of the book is me discovering all this stuff about what had just happened. I had to really come to terms to find out and understand what had just happened. And I had to raise a son. And so the one thing that stood in my mind that made it okay is one moment, because you got to remember now, we were broke, almost homeless. I mean, it was terrible. Kosi was maybe 8 by now. And I'm getting him ready for school one day, and I've got to act strong because, you know, children go off your vibrations. They don't understand other things. And so I had to act in a way to make him and assure him by my actions and the way I acted that everything was going to be okay and to make him feel comfortable. And so I'm ironing his clothes one morning, and he walks over to me with a Bible, and he looked up at me and he said, "Dad, read the book of Job. It'll make you feel better." And I looked down on him. I go, "What?" He says, "Yes, read the book of Job. Let's read it together." And we read the book of Job. And I looked at him. I go, "Where did you get that from?" He goes, "I don't know. It just came to me." And the book of Job is about a man that lost everything. But the reality is that his provisions might have changed, but his provider stayed the same.
Right.
And so it gave me clarity on who I should look to get to where I needed to get. It just cleared my mind. And I'm telling you, I started concentrating on God more, and everything just started happening. So the one part in that book that stood out in my mind is that one moment.
Wow.
Because from that point on back, we just kept going up, kept going forward, you know?
Yeah, and that's a powerful moment to remember. So I really wanted us to end on a thought process there. And, you know, because I said your book is phenomenal, and the things that we think that people go through, you know, that like I said, they aren't talked about on a regular basis, they need to be talked about. And I'm glad that you are out on the forefront. And I'm sure there are other people who've done this, but do we really pay attention to those things that need to be paid attention to? And that's the key here. So, you know, you have to pat yourself on the back for standing up for other men as well, for what and the things that they've gone through. And, you know, you are definitely a survivor of something that I'm sure that no matter how many times people, like I said, have said it before, and I said it earlier, how did you not know? You know,
yes.
You know, I'm sure you get that all the time, but
all the time.
Keep doing you, keep making sure that people are understanding of that. You know, people are human, and, you know, whatever choices that they make, there's a reason for everything. But I'm glad that you stayed strong and you've maintained taking care of your family, you know, because they needed you. You had to be the strong back, you know, for your family.
Yes. Well, you see, I have a really good wife now, right?
Well, yes.
Rose is the bomb.
Things are differently for you now. So that's the beauty of it. Absolutely.
Yes.
But then you were everything to everybody. So again, thank you. And I appreciate you actually taking the time to come on the show. Author Gary Cooper, you have been amazing. Source Nation, if you've missed out on this, you're going to have to listen to the replay, because I'm telling you, this has been one of the best shows I've had so far. Because
oh, thank you.
Well, I love it because, like I said, you know, we have a little history, but the better part about it, you know, you're actually my first male guest too. So yay.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad that I met you. Okay.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. But before I leave, of course, again, thank you for coming on. And Source Nation, again, I have to thank my sponsors, Zulina Health, Wellness, and Fitness, Meet My Types Matchmaking, Renovations, and New Covenant of Praise Worship Center. And of course, if you're interested in being a guest on my show, The Author's Corner, all you need to do is send a short bio, book cover, and a professional picture to my Gmail, which is KimberlyMMcLemore@gmail.com. That's KimberlyMMcLemore mmclemore@gmail.com. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. From Facebook pages, you can look under author Kimberly McLemore. And of course, you can also follow me through Women's Small Business Initiative, which I said earlier is my other business. So I'm all over. So there's no reason why you can't find me. But until next time, enjoy the rest of your evening. And we're out. See you next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Get at me for beats, y'all.